Now, let me bring you another story. The Jewish Museum has blocked Jeremy Corbyn from making a speech at its venue, so at the home of the Jewish Museum, which is in Camden Town in London today, about the Labour Party's ongoing problems with anti-Semitism. Why? Well, it says, or at least its spokesman does, that it fears that this would be a stunt rather than a bridge-building exercise. Members of the Jewish community raised concerns that they'd be lectured by Mr Corbyn and accused him of, and I quote, putting on an act to calm his supporters and MPs. The party is still in talks with the museum about an event next week, but there are rumours that some MPs could still walk out because of the Labour leader's failure to act on the issue. And joining me now, Gideon Falter, chairman of the Campaign Against Anti-Semitism. Gideon, good morning to you.
Good morning, Vanessa.
So when did Jeremy Corbyn or his henchmen approach the Jewish Museum and ask if he could use their venue to make a speech?
But we understand that it was yesterday that they approached the Jewish Museum and asked if they could hold some form of address so that Jeremy Corbyn could impart some kind of message to the Jewish community.
Right.
And we understand that initially the Jewish Museum were receptive, but very soon as after the news came out, a lot of Jewish people started getting in touch saying they just didn't want to have Jeremy Corbyn inside a Jewish venue at the moment. And I think that they're absolutely right, because if Jeremy Corbyn wanted to do something about the anti-Semitism crisis, which is largely of his own making, then he's had years in which to do it. And we've been giving him, as a Jewish community, every opportunity for years to take some action. My mind goes back now to the Shami Chakrabarti report, which we all remember was a very similar moment to now. He was engulfed by crisis. He said he was going to commission an independent inquiry by Shami Chakrabarti. And in the end, we get a whitewash. Shami Chakrabarti becomes the first, and at that point, the only person that Jeremy Corbyn has ever given a peerage to. And we end up with things not getting any better.
Okay, let me ask you something, Gideon. It may feel as if we're moving backwards, but I think we might need to move backwards in order to move forwards on this one. There will be people listening to this programme who are absolutely sick of hearing the phrase anti-Semitism in the Labour Party, and they won't really know what it means. They will have heard it so often now on the news bulletins and seen it in the paper, but they'll just be thinking, sorry, what anti-Semitism? How is it expressing itself? Who is expressing it? What form is it taking? We've become used to the phrase and maybe we don't really know what the components are. So give me some overview, will you, for people who haven't necessarily been following it, but are thoroughly sort of ticked off with having to hear it so much. What is the anti-Semitism that you think is present in the Labour Party?
You're absolutely right. There are people from the lowest ranks in the Labour Party right up to the highest ranks. So, for example, we've had councillors talking about Jewish conspiracies, talking about Hitler being the Zionist god, about Jews having big noses. We've had a whole range of anti-Semitic attacks on Jews from Labour councillors, from Labour Party members, all of the way up to the people right at the ruling committee of the Labour Party, the National Executive Committee, where last week we had Peter Wilsman making this extraordinary tirade, which he was caught on someone had their microphone going, I suppose. He was caught in this recording shouting about Jewish Trump fanatics and how allegations of anti-Semitism are being falsified. And so we've just got this complete range within the party, from the lowest ranks to the highest ranks, of people saying all sorts of things about Jews, largely conspiracy theories, some of them just base slurs, such as calling Jews, saying Jews have big noses and that they were somehow responsible for the Holocaust against them. And then you've got Jeremy Corbyn himself. And Jeremy Corbyn comes from a place within the Labour Party that's not really traditional Labour Party. He doesn't come from the Labour Party of old. He comes from a sort of far left sector of the Labour Party. And he spent his life surrounding himself with anti-Semites. And in the last week or two, we've heard even further evidence of Jeremy Corbyn making remarks which are actually anti-Semitic under the international definition of anti-Semitism.
And this is where we come to the latest controversy, really, which is that there's an internationally recognised definition of anti-Semitism. It's acknowledged in 146 countries and by the Holocaust Memorial Trust. And the Labour Party has said, no, we don't want to have that, actually. We want to basically rewrite chunks of this internationally recognised definition. And that has caused tremendous offence. Would that be fair to say?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think that a lot of people look at this and they say, well, hang on a minute, why is Labour refusing to adopt this definition? And then in the last couple of weeks, we see things that Jeremy Corbyn himself has said, which would actually fall foul of the definition. I think a lot of people have this sort of eureka moment where they say, that is why they don't want to adopt the definition. It's because Jeremy Corbyn himself and a number of people like him on the extreme far left would actually be caught by the definition. Because, for example, when he went on Press TV, the Iranian state channel, which was actually banned by, he actually went in for a paid performance on Press TV after it was banned by Ofcom. And in this interview, he goes saying that an Islamist terrorist attack in Egypt was possibly conducted by the hand of Israel. And then a Hamas operative came on and he started calling him his brother. Jeremy Corbyn's calling a Hamas terrorist his brother. Then we get these revelations that on Holocaust Memorial Day in 2010, he held an event accusing Jews basically of being Nazified. One of the speakers said that the consciousness of the victims of the Nazis had been Nazified successfully, which basically means that Jews have become the successors to the Nazis. And this is an event Jeremy Corbyn himself chaired in Parliament, where Jeremy Corbyn himself actually ordered the police to throw out anti-racism activists who were in the crowd remonstrating with his speakers.
Is there any argument at all for saying if Jeremy Corbyn says he wants to apologise or explain or make good or whatever it is, and he's phoned the Jewish Museum to say, look, can I please come and make this speech, that the Jewish Museum should say yes, at least invite him in and wait to hear what he has to say and see whether what he says is satisfactory in any particular or deeply unsatisfactory? Is there any argument at all for saying they should, embrace the chance or take the dove of peace offered?
If Jeremy Corbyn wants to make a statement, Jeremy Corbyn should get on with it and spit it out. He doesn't need to go to the Jewish Museum. He doesn't need to organise some kind of great public address from within one of the Jewish institutions in London. He can say what he has to say, but the fact is, the man is an anti-Semite. From his actions, he's running an institutionally anti-Semitic party. And he is, he would
take enormous exception to that, wouldn't he? He'd say he's not racist. He'd say he's not anti-Semitic, not personally, and
Jewish, yeah.
And I suppose he might even say some of his best friends are Jewish. Gideon Falter, thank you so much. Good to talk to you on the programme. He's the chairman of the campaign against anti-Semitism.